Claude Skills are here. We're going to go through today exactly what Claude Skills are, exactly how you can use them, and we're going to live build some Claude Skills so that you can see some potential use cases, but also just how to best build these skills. And the first thing we're going to do is just sort of re-explain exactly what they are, or at least how I'm thinking about them. So a couple of things to note. Already in Claude, you've got Claude Projects. These work just like custom GPTs. They are standard sort of projects where you can add context, and that's great because you can create little knowledge bases and instructions on particular tasks. So for example, you could create one on your business, you could create one on creating LinkedIn posts. I've got one for that. You can create a project really on any sort of topic. You can think of it like that. But what is so great about skills is that these skills are things that you can bring in anywhere. And it's almost like prompts that you reuse, but it's prompts that also have context. So in one window, when you are going through and doing a particular task, let's say that you are, for example, creating a LinkedIn post. And in the example we're going to go through, I want to turn that into an X post. I can create my LinkedIn post in, for example, a project, which has all my context of my LinkedIn posts. And then I can say, now turn this into an X post. It's going to bring in that skill already in the context window. So it knows all my context. I'm not having to move window. But then it's going to bring in not just the skill, but all of the resources that I attach there, right? So as you can see here, you can attach PDFs, markdown files, full sort of resources and documentation. So what that means is it comes in almost as a saved prompt, but with all of that context. And we'll give you some good examples of how this works. But then what you could do is you could do another skill, or you could combine skills. So it means that it just makes the way you're using workflows a lot more intelligent. And it just means that you have these little pockets of actions that are saved, and you can do things repeatably. Let's say I had another skill on generating an image. Maybe I have created that X post and I want it to use this image. I could then have a skill that might crop the image into a certain shape that really fits X, and it will do it every single time, the exact same thing. So it's very good that these are here. Excited to get building with them. And so we're going to do two things today. We're going to build one skill that turns LinkedIn posts into X posts. So this is a repurposing agent. This is really useful because lots of people are creating content. You might have some content out there that you then want to repurpose. So we're going to do that today. We're also going to do a case study creator. And the reason for that is actually it's just something that we need at Ghost Team. We're working with a lot of businesses, and we want to create really good case studies that are on our website, showing what we've done and really highlighting that work. So we're going to do it in two different ways though. The first thing we're going to do is actually, and I have already done this prior, I'm going to use Manus to help me create the first skill. And the reason for that is because I really want to do this properly, and I'll get into therefore why we've used Manus and then new computer use agent in a second. The second one we're going to do is we're actually just going to directly ask Claude how to create the skill, because this is also something that you can do. So we're going to do one which is sort of separate research work that needs to be done to get the necessary pieces for the skill, then build the skill. And then we're going to do the case study creator, ask Claude to actually help us create that skill, because that's something else you can do if you don't have a specific way you want to do it in mind. So with all of that said, let's get started on the LinkedIn to X post skill. So I have Claude on desktop, and if you want to access skills, what you need to do is you need to go to settings, and then you need to go to capabilities, and then here you have skills. So you could just click upload skill, and then what it will do is you can then add in documentation. And so that's typically a markdown file of what the skill actually is, but then you could also have other documentation that might be in there, PDFs and things like this. So what I'm going to do based on that is for this LinkedIn post to X post piece, what I want to do is I actually wanted to analyze all of my LinkedIn posts. And then what I wanted to do was understand the kind of content that I post on LinkedIn. Then I wanted it to actually look for different X creators that create content like me. I want it to learn what they do to create really good X posts. And then I wanted to basically just give it every time I create a LinkedIn post. And then I wanted it to create me a number of different versions of types of posts. So there's multiple formats on X, right? Maybe it's a short post, maybe it's a thread. I wanted it to create me, like analyze which post formats are doing well, and then create me a version of my post in all those different formats. So I can then say, okay, based on what I fancy posting today or what I feel like will do well, I'm going to then post it in this format. But it's learning from what my content is, the best creators aligned to me, and then what is performing really well for them. Now, with that request, what I did is I actually went to Manus. And the reason I did that is Manus has just opened up their new Manus 1.5 agent, and they have got this amazing computer use agent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to link a video below. Maybe it will pop up if I can get that to work, where I go through the whole of how I use this. So Manus is amazing. It autonomously was able to, first of all, it tried to access my LinkedIn. And there was a bit of an issue there because it couldn't access the login. LinkedIn's quite hard to access. So I got a LinkedIn scraper and I basically scraped all of my LinkedIn posts. I gave it that. Then it scraped all my posts. It then went onto X using its web agent and started to go through. It found like 3 creators that are like me. I also gave it a link for the Claude Skills, so it knew how to create the skills. And then it basically created me all the documentation that I needed for these skills. So to actually create this Claude skill, I don't have to write any documentation, nothing like that. It's actually just created me the documentation that I need. So this is the main one, the Claude skill, multi-format. I think I need it as a markdown file. There we go. And then I also want to just download the rest of the documentation as well. So I'm actually just going to exit out of that. And then I'm going to do these ones as PDFs just because I don't want to confuse Claude with the main sort of skill markdown file. So I'm then just going to go and do this one. And so, by the way, what it's done, and I can just go through these quickly. This one is my content analysis. So it's just looking at all the content that I've made, all my posts, 204 posts, average engagement, peak engagement, things like this. And then this one was examples of turning my posts into X posts. So you can see here, it wants the as is, and then it wants examples. So that's really good to know, right? And then the other thing it did is it just did a full overview of the sort of X analysis and what stuff it sort of identified as good posts. So we've got that here. Okay, great. Now that I've got all of those files created with Manus, what I'm going to do is I'm then just going to go here. And actually, what I've just realized is you do need to actually create this as a zip file. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to do this within Claude Code. And so this is a good example actually of a practical use case for Claude Code and how, as someone non-technical, you can use it to help you do something. So I now need to put all of those files into a zip file. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to open up my terminal. Okay, great. And then I'm going to type Claude Code. Click yes. Great. I'm going to say, for the last 4 files that are in my downloads folder, I need to put them into a zip file. Can you do that for me, please? So I'm also using Whisperflow as a tool here, which is really, really good for transcription. So I'm going to click enter, and as you can see, this looks a bit intimidating, right? But it's actually very, very simple. The terminal is basically ways in which you can just code, directly and access like the main files of your computer. And with Claude Code, you can just speak natural language to it. So it's basically able to take the last downloads, right, and just do this autonomously for me. So again, I've not had to write any code. I've just had to speak natural language to my computer, and it's just done it. So done. So if I now go to upload skill, click here. Okay, so actually we can see here what's the issue. It must contain a skill MD file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my downloads, update that main markdown file to be called skill.md, and then it's going to have all the information it needs to upload. Change this file's name to skill.md. Keep everything else in the zip file the same. Because it seems as though to actually get the zip file to upload, you have to do it before you unpack the zip file into a folder. So let me just make this update. And as you can see here, this stuff is really fast. So this is why it's easier just to speak natural language to your computer and just get these updates to be done. We've now got that. Now let me see if I can just upload this and it works for us. So I'm going to go into final try. Bam, there we go. LinkedIn to X post converter. Very cool. Transform LinkedIn post into high performing X posts across 6 different formats. Let's try it in chat. I'm not going to ask that, but what I am going to do is I'm going to take one of my LinkedIn posts and I'm going to then say, can you recreate it? So let me just go and get one now. I recently did a post 3 days ago that was on these Claude skills. So some people were engaging and adding some comments. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to take a screenshot like this, pop that in. And then I'm going to also try and take a bit of a video as well, so it understands that there is an asset there. And then we've got that added. Okay, so it's definitely found it. It seems to be working there, which is awesome. Okay, great. So now what it's done is it's read that whole LinkedIn post, and then it's taken exactly what I wanted it to do, which is it's then suggested, based on that post, some recommended formats. So standard thread, deep thread, and complete. And so it's now basically recommended the top ones, but given it to me basically in every different format that you would possibly want for an X post. So I can now just review those and see which one I think actually makes best. So it's got this micro one, Claude just got superpowers. And sometimes these things work really well, and you can actually just take it. Another one, Claude Skills just dropped, upload instructions folder. Claude automatically loads them when relevant, like having 100 specialized agents in one. Awesome. X post created. And now a complete one, and it's got quick it's got like the second tweet, the third tweet. This is amazing. Really, really good. So now every single time I have it, I just call in that skill, and then it's able to just execute it for me. So that is amazing. Now, we're going to do the second one. So let me just go to a new window, and it's going to be the case studies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I want to create a skill that is able to create case studies for my website. And I want to give it different information about a particular project that we did. That could either be a voice note, a piece of documentation overview, maybe a conversation with a customer or a reference. And then I want you to basically turn that into a particular case study format. Now, I want you to tell me what information you need from me to make it a really good skill. For example, do you need some references about what I think a good case study looks like? Do you need some examples? Please tell me what I need to do to make sure that we can create a really good Claude skill to create case studies. Great, so we've got that prompt there. I'm also going to, and I find this useful sometimes, I'm going to just take the Claude skill reference, so it's got some documentation. You'd assume Claude knows how to create these skills, but it's best to just give more information when you need it. Example case studies. So it's looking for best case studies that we want to achieve. These are important. They'll teach the style, tone, include both good and ideally one before example that we weren't happy with. Okay. Desired structure template. Yeah, that's fine. Brand, voice, and audience, who reads these. And then also length and format specifications, results matrix handling, input handling, guidance. Okay, so what I did is actually the other day I saw a website that I thought had some good case study examples. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that website, and then I'm going to basically just tell it, this is a good example that's not ours, but one that I think we could use as a reference. So analyze this and then create the skill around that. Great. So now I've just got these example blogs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, these are some good examples of what I'd like to do for case studies and the structure. So let's use these. I do also want you to add some more around results and outcomes with metrics. I think metrics is important compared to what they've got here. And then I'd also like you to do testimonials and a quote. And in terms of brand voice and audience, I would like you to do it in a professional but approachable tone, very similar to the way that I typically post on LinkedIn. And so I will attach a example. And then also in terms of who reads these, it's prospects, so our customers or potential customers. And in terms of target word count length, I think use the same as the example references that I've given, and do the output formats as markdown files. Now let me just attach the LinkedIn example. Great. Okay, so I've just given it a little bit more context there, and let's then see what it asks for next. Perfect. And now what's happening is it's got all the information it needs. Clearly, it's now creating this markdown file as a skill, which is great. So it's now, not only have I just asked it the skill that I want to make, I've then just asked it and given it some basic information, and now it is going through and actually just generating the exact skill documentation that I need so that I can just go and upload it straight away. Okay, so I've actually got that already in my download. So I'm going to go back to the terminal because I need to basically create a zip file on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I want you to take the latest markdown file in my downloads, and I want you to turn it into a zip file so that I can then use it to upload and create a skill within Claude. What's cool about this is that it's remembered the context from the last conversation and basically checked if it needs to be in the YAML format. What I hope it's done is it's going to understand that it's probably not, and then it's going to make the updates to the file. Doesn't have it, let me create the proper skill file with the requirements. That's awesome. So it's actually updated the skill, it's adding this format, and you can see here that it's actually doing it in all lowercase, which is remembered from last time. So that's amazing, saved me a lot of time. By the way, I will drop in the comments a place where you can actually just get Claude Code downloaded. It's really, really easy, and then it just works in your terminal like this. And it's actually remembered to put it into the right location because of the conversation I was just having around where to store this file internally so that Claude can now access it, which is great. So I'm now going to go back a couple of errors. Capabilities. Now I'm going to upload skill, zip. There we go. And that's now been uploaded. So transform raw project information into compelling case studies with proven narrative structure. So I'm now going to delete Claude again, just close it down, and then I'm going to open it up again. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give it some specific information about and I'm going to see if it can access the skill. So let me just go and get that project information. Okay, so what I've just done is we had a slide on this case study already, which will help to actually create it into a good format. So and then we also had a delivery email. So every time we have one of the deliveries for our clients, we send an overview of the email with all the necessary information about what was delivered and things like this. So what I'm going to say is can you turn this into a case study using the case study skill? Be a bit more explicit and see if we get the results that we're wanting. Because the benefit of this is that if it uses the skill every time, it's going to be repeatable, right? It's going to every single time reference the structure that we want, the information that we want it to understand as well and have as context. when I've created some examples of this, I'll also be able to create, some good sort of examples of ones that we've already used. So now access that skill, and it is extracting the information, and then it will create it in a particular format. And what's great, like I said, is it's going to be doing this format repeatably. But the full document that's been created is created in this specific structure. It's a bit long for me, actually. I want it to be a lot more concise than this, but nonetheless, this is great because it gives us a first pass, and then what we can do is we can update the skill so that it is more in line with what we want it to do. But that's a good example of how you can do these things end to end. Like I said, you can really create a skill on anything. I think one thing that's cool as well is doing it on a knowledge base. I would really recommend people do that. That means that you can bring in knowledge and context basically into any conversation, like i.e. reference this knowledge base on Ghost Team to better create this case study. So that's an overview. Hope it was useful. If you've got any questions, always drop it in the comments. I answer them all, and happy building.